The restaurant fell silent as Elise Harrington stood up from her table, tears streaming down her face. What she was about to do would change not just one life, but dozens. If you're moved by stories of unexpected kindness and second chances, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming true stories that restore faith in humanity. Elise hadn't always been a billionaire. 20 years ago, she was a struggling single mother working 3 jobs to keep a roof over her son's head. Now, at 45, she owned one of the largest tech companies in the country. Tonight was special, her son Jacob's 25th birthday. She'd reserved the finest table at Lumiere, the most exclusive restaurant in the city. "Mom, you didn't have to do all this," Jacob said, admiring the champagne and elaborate 5-course meal before them. "Nonsense," Elise replied, reaching across to squeeze his hand. "I'm so proud of the man you've become. A pediatric surgeon who volunteers at free clinics on weekends? You deserve this and more." Jacob smiled, but his attention drifted to a table near the window. Elise followed his gaze to a man about her age sitting with a young girl, perhaps 10 or 11. The man wore a slightly worn suit that had clearly been carefully pressed. The girl was dressed in her Sunday best, a simple blue dress that was a size too small. "They look like they're celebrating something special," Jacob observed. Elise watched as the man studied the menu with growing concern. She recognized that look, the mental calculation of prices, the subtle wince. When the waiter approached, the man ordered only 1 entree and a side salad. "I'm not very hungry, Daddy," the girl said, but her eyes lingered on a dessert being carried to another table. "It's okay, sweetheart. We'll get ice cream on the way home," he promised, though Elise could hear the strain in his voice. Something stirred in Elise's chest, a memory so vivid it took her breath away. She was suddenly back in that diner 20 years ago, counting pennies while Jacob, then 5, pretended he wasn't hungry because he knew they couldn't afford much. "Excuse me," Elise said to Jacob, standing up. She approached the maitre d' and spoke quietly. The man nodded, looking surprised but pleased. When Elise returned to her table, Jacob raised an eyebrow. "What was that about?" "Just wait," she said. Minutes later, servers began bringing dish after dish to the father and daughter's table. The man looked confused, then alarmed, trying to explain there must be a mistake. The maitre d' leaned down and whispered something. The man's eyes widened, then filled with tears as he looked around the restaurant, finally meeting Elise's gaze. She gave him a small nod. The girl clapped her hands in delight as a chocolate soufflé was placed before her. "Daddy, look! It's just like in the pictures." Throughout dinner, Elise occasionally glanced over. The father and daughter were talking animatedly, laughing, savoring each bite as if it were their last. It was the girl's birthday, Elise later learned. She was turning 11, and her father had saved for months to bring her somewhere special. When they finished their meal, the man approached Elise's table, daughter in tow. "I don't know how to thank you," he said, voice thick with emotion. "I'm Robert, and this is my daughter, Emma. I'm Elise, and this is my son, Jacob. The waiter said you paid for everything and left instructions for Emma to order whatever she wanted for dessert." Elise smiled. "It's her birthday. Every birthday should be magical." Robert hesitated. "I've been struggling since my wife died 3 years ago. I'm a high school teacher, and things have been tight. But I promised Emma a special dinner for her birthday, even if it meant eating ramen for a month." "I understand completely," Elise said. 20 years ago, I was in your shoes." As they talked, Elise learned that Robert taught science at an underfunded school. He was passionate about education but barely making ends meet. Emma was bright, with dreams of becoming a doctor, like your son, she said shyly to Jacob. When Robert and Emma left, promising to pay the kindness forward someday, Jacob looked at his mother with newfound admiration. "That was incredible, Mom. But I know that look. You're not done, are you?" Elise smiled. Not even close. The next morning, Elise called an emergency meeting with her executive team. By afternoon, the Harrington Foundation for Educational Opportunity was born, with a $50 million initial endowment. Within weeks, Robert's school received state-of-the-art science equipment. Teachers were given raises, and scholarship programs were established. But Elise didn't stop there. She expanded the foundation to support single parents pursuing education, creating childcare programs and financial assistance. 6 months later, Elise invited Robert and Emma to the foundation's gala opening. When Robert saw what his chance encounter had inspired, he was speechless. "Why?" he finally asked. "Why do all this because of us?" Elise looked at Jacob, now working alongside Emma at one of the foundation's youth science programs. "Because 20 years ago, someone did something similar for me," she revealed. "A regular customer at the diner where I worked noticed I was struggling. He paid for Jacob's school supplies anonymously for years. He invested in my first business idea when no bank would touch it. That man changed our lives not just with money, but with belief." "Did you ever find out who he was?" Emma asked. "Yes," Elise said softly. "He was my high school science teacher." Robert's eyes widened in understanding. "Sometimes the universe has a beautiful way of coming full circle," Elise continued. "That night at the restaurant, I wasn't just helping you. I was honoring him, and every person who believes that kindness matters." 1 year later, the foundation had helped hundreds of families. Robert now directed its educational initiatives, and Emma was thriving in a specialized science program. And Elise? She had discovered that her greatest joy wasn't in accumulating wealth, but in using it to create ripples of opportunity that would continue long after she was gone. As for that dinner at Lumiere, it became an annual tradition, not just for Elise, Jacob, Robert, and Emma, but for dozens of single parents and their children, all celebrating birthdays, achievements, and the unexpected connections that change lives. Sometimes the most extraordinary acts of kindness begin with simply noticing another person's struggle and remembering your own. If this story touched your heart, please share it with someone who needs to be reminded that compassion can transform lives in ways we never imagine. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories that celebrate the best of humanity.